All right, back on Radio Row, talkSPORT ahead of the big game this Sunday, live and exclusive on talkSPORT from the stadium. Myself, Greg Rosenthal, Jeff Reinbold will be bringing you live coverage of Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. But the world of football doesn't stop for something like the Super Bowl. There's so many other stories going on and so much happening in the world. And I'm delighted to say that joining us now, not only the first draft pick and Hall of Famer from the Jacksonville Jaguars, a good friend of ours, Tony Boselli, but now the EVP of Football Operations. How does that feel, hearing that tagged on to your very long title?
Listen, it's exciting. I mean, I've been a part of this organization since 1995. I mean, it's part of who I am. And when Shad gave me the opportunity to take this role, it was a no-brainer. So I'm really excited. I'm excited about the direction of the organization and kind of how we're doing things. And we're resetting everything. We got a new head coach. We'll have a new GM here pretty soon. And then here comes me. So I'll be right in the thick of it. And so it's a huge privilege and honor that Shad trusts me with this role. And I'm excited to get to work. And we've already been at it. And really excited about Liam Coen. I mean, that's the guy we wanted. We got him. And the fact that he's our head coach and working with him for the last week plus now is I'm even more convicted that he's the right guy for the job and is going to do great things for us. Still,
quite a wild circumstance to how he ended up there. And he goes back to Tampa Bay. Trent ends up leaving the organization. Just talk us through from your perspective how that played out and how it all kind of ended up working for you.
Well, I mean, listen, these things are never a straight line. You know, sometimes from point A to point B to get to where you want to go, you have to take some detours and things happen. And the thing that jumped out at me, it really showed the leadership of Shad Khan and how we went through the process. Was it perfect? No, but rarely is it. And as we went through it, it was clear kind of the direction we wanted to go. We knew we wanted to get an offensive-minded guy. Trevor Lawrence is really important to this organization. We've invested in him, and we have a strong conviction that he is our quarterback and that he will lead us to a championship. So we wanted to make sure that we thought about that, get the right leader, a guy who could communicate clearly, had a clear vision of what he wanted to do. And so as we went through the process, and there was a lot of great candidates that we interviewed, a lot of really good football coaches, but I think everyone felt like Liam was the guy. And there were some bumps in the road, but that's okay because we ended up getting to where we wanted to be.
We've seen, obviously, the quality of his scheme this year, the quality of the play calling, very strong for a guy doing it for the kind of first time at that level. The game scripts were unreal, and all that stuff's great. All the football nerd stuff's great. But what about Liam Coen, the man? What about when he was the person sat in front of you guys made you say, yeah, that's our guy?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think a lot of times you think about in this hiring process is the play or the stuff on the field, and that's really important. But we knew Liam Coen could call ball games. Mm-hmm. We knew he was a good ball coach. I mean, Tampa was the only offense in the top 5 in passing and rushing last year, and people forget that for a large portion of the season, he didn't have his 2 best receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, 2 of the best in the league. And so he did it with a lot of different guys. He had a rookie running back and took that group from 32nd to top 5 in rushing. So we knew he was a great ball coach. Like, he'd do it. So the question now is, can he lead the whole building? Can he be the guy out in front that can get everything together, pull a staff together, lead the staff, and be the voice of the building? And that's really what I wanted to see. And when we sat down with him, boy, it was clear. I mean, this guy has a presence. He understands what he wants it to look like. He's been in really successful organizations and programs. I mean, he's in Los Angeles with Sean McVay, so he saw how Sean did it. In Tampa with Todd Bowles and that organization, he saw how they did. They had success. And so it was pretty apparent that he was the guy, for me at least. And I think the thing that I loved, because so often you get these coordinators, offensive coordinators, what do they want to do? They want to talk about throwing it down the field. That's the game today. And he immediately, we talked about the quarterback and all that, but he immediately went and said, listen, the most important thing, the point of emphasis, we got to get the offensive line right. And we got to get the
I mean, he knew his audience when he was saying that to you, right?
And so when he said that, I was like, oh, because it showed up on tape. He understands if you can't control the line of scrimmage, you can't win. You can't have sustainable winning. And it's on both sides. We got to get the D-line strong, stopping the run. And as we've gone through the process of hiring our staff and how we've gone about it and being right there with him and assisting however I could and can, he means it. I mean, that's a point of emphasis and it's a focus, and we're going to get that right, because if you win the line of scrimmage, because we believe in Trevor Lawrence. He's our guy. You got BT outside. You got a lot of great pieces. And now let's get those lines of scrimmage right. Let's win there, and we'll be just fine.
It's wonderful to hear that you believe in him, and obviously you have that huge investment. But at the same time, that needs to translate onto the field, right? We need to see it in the performances. So
well, it's all about that. Yeah. Like what happens on the grass is all that matters. Mm-hmm. This is a production business. You're going to be judged by your wins and losses. That's how we're going to be judged, all of us.
And the fact is, 2 or 3 times a game, even when he's going through down periods, Trevor will make a throw that makes me go, wow, there's 5 other guys in the league that can make that throw across his body, hash to hash, like just doing these ridiculous arm talent. But how do you build him back up from that guy we saw maybe 2 years ago to getting him back to where he was? And what did Liam Coen say to you about that?
Well, Liam is a believer. He loves Trevor. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of who Trevor Lawrence is going to be. Trevor Lawrence is a good dude. He's a competitor. He wants to get better. He wants to win. And our job is to make sure we put a system and in place, a culture that we do everything to support not just him but all our players, to give them the tools and resources to be great. And then at the end of the day, then it's on them. And just like everyone in the building, we're all accountable for what we put on the field and the product we put out there. What's really important is that process of how we get there. And Liam has a very detailed plan of how we're going to do it. We'll get a GM here coming up pretty soon, and we're going to make sure there's alignment and we're all communicating in the building. And then we're going to put all the resources, all the tools and everything else. But at the end of the day, our coaches and our players, when we get on the field, we got to go execute. And that's why we picked Liam Coen, because we believe he's the guy to do that. That's why Trevor Lawrence, we've invested in him because we believe he's the guy that can do that. And we just now have to make sure that as this offseason, we start building it and going through the process, everything's about, when we kick it off in September, is to go put a great product on the grass and go win football games.
Now, from your perspective personally, and look, I say this in a way of like, as the process came out and we began to get this kind of information coming from the inside that you were quite involved in the process, and that ended up becoming official this week, that you were involved in the organization, my kind of first thought that I had was, well, Tony's not one to bite his tongue. So how did that process go? How did those conversations go with him, where it's gone from you're a guy who, you know, has been willing to not take shots but be honest about the organization to now you're a guy on the inside with him?
Well, listen, the one thing I think I've been consistent since I've been a part of this organization, I've had different roles. My role when I was a TV analyst is to communicate to our fans what I thought was happening. And the one thing that I pride myself in, and I will not do, it's never about the individual. It's about what are we doing to try to win football games. And the role I am in now is to be part of that and to have those conversations. And one of the things that I think builds a strong team is that you have healthy conversations, conflict, because you want to challenge each other. Mm-hmm. Because, listen, I'm going to be wrong. We all have our perspectives, but when you get in there, but the key is once you make a decision, it's our decision. It's not his decision or that decision, because when it goes well, everyone's like, I did it. And then when it goes wrong, everyone's like, oh, it's that guy's fault. Mm-hmm. We're not going to do that. And one of the things about Shad that I just respect immensely is if you look at, and I've said this a couple times, you look at the job description of an owner, Shad Khan is A+. Mm-hmm. Because the owner's job is to, invest, give the resources, give the tools, invest in the organization. Shad also invests in the community. And now we just got to get the last bit right. And we've had some success. We've had some high points, mm-hmm. but not enough. And so how do we get to sustained winning? So, I'm in that role. It's very simple. It's like I was an offensive lineman, Will. What was my job? Is to protect the quarterback and open holes for the running back. Is to move the ball down the field, try to help other people score. That is what I'm doing now. I'm not picking players. That's our GM's job. I'm not coaching players. That's our head coaches and our coaching staff jobs. My job is to support both of them and our owner to make sure we have all the resources and the rest of the building is doing what they're supposed to do to support those individuals. And I think the people are going to be excited. Proof is in the pudding. I mean, my responsibility is to prove that to Shad Khan. He's trusting me. Ex-player. Played the game. Yeah, I've been in business and all that stuff, but he is trusting me with a big role. And my job is to go prove to him and do my job at a level that justifies him hiring me. So we all have responsibility. We all have to get to the point where we're putting, what you call it, points on the boards or stacking up wins, whatever analogy you want to do. But the one thing that is clear to me is in this whole process, and I've always known this, and listen, I've been as frustrated as anybody. Mm-hmm. You know, we've had conversations. I'm a competitive dude. You just want to win. And the biggest frustration a lot of times is like I just felt like you can't do anything about it.
I mean this with so much love. When I saw you at Wembley ahead of the Patriots game and asked you, like, you know, how are you feeling? I don't think I've seen you that low before. And, like, come away with the win that day, and now you've got an opportunity to get in there and change things. It's great. But, like, you are a guy who lives and dies with this team.
I love this team. I love this organization. I can't tell you the appreciation that I have for the Khan family, that they're our owners, because of them being our owners and their investment in this club and investment in our city. That's why we have a team in Jacksonville, and I love Jacksonville. I love our fans, and so I just want to do my role. Whatever my role is to try to help this organization to have success.
Will you structurally? Will you be reporting directly into Shad then?
Yeah, I report to Shad. The head coach will report to Shad. And the GM will report to Shad. So Shad's going to be very involved.
Okay.
He's going to be. I'm really hoping. He's a busy man. Obviously, has a lot of responsibilities, and he's super successful. Everything he touches is successful. So I'm hoping, he has a lot of responsibility. But I believe he'll be there more because his insight. He's a smart man. He has a perspective. He sees things. It's super valuable. But at the end of the day, the voice in that building needs to be Liam's voice. Mm-hmm. He's the head coach. He's the leader. He's going to lead. He's going to set the culture, not just for the team, but for that building. And we're going to support him and help him have success and take everything off his plate so he can focus on coaching ball, because we know he's a great ball coach. We've seen it. I mean, it's on the tape. The tape doesn't lie. And that's the goal, what you're going to try to do. I really like how, as Shad laid this out and kind of his plan, how he sees it. I thought it was great. I thought it was very I think it's the right way to do it, and we'll all be in it together. But the key is we have to communicate, we have to be aligned, and we have to, like, when we have those healthy conversations, confrontations, we challenge each other. Whatever the decision is, when we come out, it's all of our decisions. And every organization I've been successful in, when you get that right, everything else is going to work out.
So we were sat here with Thomas Dimitrov yesterday having that very same conversation. He's like, he's been in situations where him and the head coach have been simpatico, but the third guy in that situation they haven't had trust in, or they haven't had, and that's made it very difficult because, so that's, for me, that's what fans will want to hear, is that you're going to be working kind of together as the three of you. But with that in mind, how is the GM search going? How are you finding that process?
It's growing, and I'll talk about it in a second, but what Thomas says is right. It's like, to me, I look at it like a team. I mean, football is the ultimate team sport. Offensive line is the ultimate team position. It's not like I agreed with everything that was happening in the line room. But you know what? Just because I had an opinion doesn't mean I'm right either. And so when we come to a consensus of how we're going to block something or how we're going to handle a front or anything else, you have that debate. But when you come out of there, my job is to go execute. And so why is it any different in this role? Like, we'll have good, healthy debate. That's good. We have smart people. And Thomas is right. It's built on trust, communication, and going through it. And then you go out and you row the boat in the same direction. You say, this is where we're going. And if it works, y'all high-five each other. If it doesn't, because you're going to have bumpy times. It's not going to, you know this well. It's not going to be a straight line to success. And when you have those tough moments, it's not about pointing fingers. Okay, we're all in this together. How do we adjust the strategy to get back on course? And that's what we're going to do, and that's my commitment. My commitment to Shad, my commitment to Liam, and whoever our new GM is. As far as the GM search is, we are just kicking it off.
Well, so just to reframe that, because I'm aware you've been very generous with your time and really appreciate you coming down and joining us, Tony. We always love chatting, but kind of very serious football conversation today. But is there... you guys are behind the 8 ball. There's no kind of way about that. You've not got the GM at the moment, and the draft is X number of weeks away, and the combine's just a few weeks away, and so you are, in a position where you'd like to get them moving, I imagine. Do you guys have a timetable? Are you trying to get, is this going to be exhausted very quickly? Are you hoping to appoint someone by next week? Is there have you gone through those thoughts in your mind of how this is going to look over the next 2 months?
So first I'll say is we are not behind. We're going to be just fine. And because Ethan Waugh is our interim GM, and we are operating business as usual, and Ethan Waugh is a finalist for the GM, and he is a heck of a personnel guy. He's the assistant GM. He was in San Francisco before this. He's a pro's pro, and so we are operating right now on schedule, on time, and we're moving forward to the combine, towards the draft and everything else. So that is not an issue. So I don't want any of our fans to think, oh, no, they got to hustle and they got to rush around and make a quick decision. We're not going to do that. We're going to make the right decision. And we're kicking off the first start of interviews next week on Monday. Mm-hmm. And we have 9 external candidates that will go through virtual interviews. We have some internal candidates as well, Ethan being one of them. Ethan will be a finalist because he's earned that right. He has proven what kind of personnel person he is. And then once we go through the virtuals, we'll narrow it down to 3 to 5. That will include Ethan, and then we'll have in-person interviews, hopefully the next week, all depending on scheduling, and then we'll come out with a decision. And
finally, just who's involved in that process? Is it you, Liam, and Shard, or?
Yeah, so Mark Lamping's involved as well, our president. Liam is absolutely involved because we got to make sure those two are aligned. Obviously, Shad, it's going to be ultimately his decision, and Shad will ask for our input and what we think, but Shad's going to make the decision who the GM is. And then in the early process, we're going to have some of the other people that are leaders of departments that will have to interact. They'll have a little bit of involvement. They'll be part of the process as well on those initial virtual interviews.
At the end of the day, Shard's the decision maker, but you and Liam particularly will be involved. I'm just a big believer. People are fascinated by this whole process. That's right.
It's great. The head coach is leading the building, and so I'm gonna have strong opinions. You know me well. I'm gonna give my opinion, but I want to hear what Liam thinks too. And if we disagree, like one thing about Liam, and I love it, he has no problem going back and forth and beating up to get to the right decision. So we'll do that if we need to, and then we'll make a recommendation. But Shad he's the boss. He's gonna make the decision of who that thing. But the one thing I've seen with Shad, he's also a great listener. Mm-hmm. He wants to understand what the people on his team, what they think. And then he'll take all that information, and Mark will be a part of it too. Mark has a perspective. He's been wildly successful at wherever he's been. And so I lean on him a lot. He's a trusted advisor for me, and he always has been and always will be. So we'll get to the right decision. And I think our fans, listen, I get why they're frustrated and everything else. We won 4 games last year. That's not good enough. I mean, come on. We're not making any excuses. We're not, saying, blaming anyone else. That's on us. That's who we are right now. Like we were a 4-win team last year. Okay, let's change that. The only way you change that is start stacking up good decision after good decision, have a great offseason, have a great free agency, have a great draft, get into OTAs, get into camp, win camp, and then we'll find out in September over 17 games, and we can redefine who we are as a football team.
Tony, it's been fascinating and brilliant, and really appreciate your time. I'm just disappointed we're not going to hear you in the booth anymore on our Sundays, Thursdays, Mondays that we have live.
I'll still be around.
Who wins on Sunday?
I can't go against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I just can't.
All right. We'll let you get out of it, but really appreciate it. Tony Boselli joining us on Radio Row. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.